Salute to all the real ones out there. It's your boy Mike back at you again with another video. And I just gotta say in the beginning, for all the people who have seen my videos, if you like, let's say the direction that my channel was going, I want you to like, comment, subscribe, as well as share any of my videos that you think could help someone along their way, right? Now today's topic is going to be about 10 books that I think are mandatory reading for all young men. All right, and I'm going to highlight all of these as my favorite books of all time. You know, I learned a great deal from all of them, and I feel the need to share because I had a buddy that was talking to me the other day, and he said, "Hey man, what are some books that you would recommend for me to read?" And I was like, "Yo, if I had to break it down, it's easily 10, you know." And he was like, "Hey man, just shoot me a list whenever you get a chance." So now I'm back in my room or whatever, and I was like, "Yo, let me go ahead and make this list." And when I thought about it, I was like, "Hey man, maybe there's probably other people that are listening to me or whatever that have an interested in reading something that might be useful." So without further ado, let's get it down on the list. All right, so the first book is one of my favorites of all time. I read it when maybe I was like 14, 15. Is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Now, this book was basically a tale of a young sailor who pretty much had everything if you look at him from the outside looking in. I mean, he had a nice appearance, he was handsome, he was well liked by many people, cool personality, he was very skilled at his job as a sailor. He had a very beautiful girlfriend named Mercedes. And even though he came from like a poor background, it looked like he had a promising future due to the fact that he worked his way up and was socially accepted by the type of character he had. You know, these type of people that are very charismatic and charming, and they pretty much have everything even though they're not financially doing so well. So a lot of black people could probably attest to this, you know, coming from the hood or whatever messed up circumstances early on in your life, but you still have that it factor about you that allows you to reach success. That's how it was with this particular sailor, and in the book his name is Edmond Dantes. They made a book about it or a movie about it. Don't watch the movie. Movies never do the books justice, so definitely grab a copy of this book because in it you see that there is a young prince who is very jealous of all these intangible things that Edmund has. And he does everything he can to ruin Edmund and get him thrown away into a jail that's actually surrounded by water. It's in the middle of the ocean, right? And yeah, it's pretty much nobody ever escapes from the jail, and everybody that's been sent there dies a terrible death. And long story short, Edmund links up with an older gentleman that's inside of the jail that has been scraping away trying to get out of the jail, just digging a small tunnel for years trying to get out of this jail, which is called the Chateau d'If. And he, after all these years thinking he's finally going to be able to escape, he winds up just coming into Edmund's room. And by this age, he's in his like 70s and he's old and tired, and he knows that, hey man, I tried so hard to get out of jail and it didn't work. But he used all of his knowledge to sharpen up Edmund, taught him how to speak different languages, taught him how to become like a scholar, schooled him on subjects like mathematics, science, politics, you know, social dynamics between people. And he basically became like a mentor that poured all of his energy into Edmund, knowing that Edmund still has a fighting chance to escape the jail and could one day discover the treasure that he buried before he was ever locked up in the Chateau d'If. So what happens is Edmund one day escapes, makes it to the treasure, and I'm not going to spoil the surprise for you, but basically he gets revenge on that prince and gets to reestablish himself as a very successful man who broke out of prison, and no one knows his identity except for Mercedes. And she finds out later on in a very interesting way. But Edmund goes on to live like a happy life after all of this trials and tribulations he's been through. So excellent read. Has to do with, you know, love, disappointment, unfair treatment, imprisonment, and then at the end, rising from the ashes like a phoenix and having triumph. So that was an excellent book. Second book I can recommend to you guys revolutionized the way that I think about money, which is called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read this book when I was about 19, when I was still living in Ohio. And basically you have a rich dad who on paper will always be rich because he was an academic, very scholar, like a scholar, and basically followed that same program that you always hear in today's society. You know, work hard, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then that's it. That was Robert T. Kiyosaki's real dad. He's the author, and that was his real dad coming up, the rich dad. Then he had the poor dad, which was a friend's dad, and this dude was an up-and-coming entrepreneur, but at this moment in his life was struggling. He had multiple businesses, he had a different way of looking at money, and he would always teach Robert key things that he should know about how money works. Like, for example, pay yourself and never work for someone. You should never receive a paycheck, you should be issuing paychecks. You know, he basically, the poor dad was teaching the boss mentality. The rich dad at the time was teaching the employee mentality. And over time in his life, he saw that the rich dad, who used to be rich, is falling over here, and the poor dad, who used to be poor, winds up becoming rich. And in the book, he gives you a whole bunch of values and lessons that millionaires and successful people use in order to maintain their wealth. So I just told you one of them, which is pay yourself first. Another one would be make sure that you invest. Another one would be live below your means. You don't want to fucking be hustling to get a paycheck and then you blow all your money on bullshit liabilities and then you're waiting on your next paycheck before you can, let's say, have some breathing room. Rich people never do that. They know how to control their debt, they control their impulses, and they know how to structure their finances to grow over long term through compound interest. So this is something that changed the way I thought about money fundamentally, and ever since I read that book, I've never been in debt or had issues maintaining my finances. Third book, mandatory reading for any male that's 13 and above. Dog, I'm telling you, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, excellent book. I'm not even going to go into detail. I'm just going to say this. It will red pill the fuck out of the way you look at the world and how you look at the dynamic between men and women. You will understand female nature, and you can apply certain techniques to make sure that you, A, reestablish your masculinity, B, never fall into the mistakes that other males make in their relationships, and C, whenever something is happening within your relationship, let's say when the woman is shit testing or being in her emotions and trying to get you to comply, you will understand the definitions and the terms that are associated with that behavior. So it will definitely just, you know how when Neo was in the Matrix and he took that red pill and he started to see everything for what it was and he was in denial at first, that's going to be you when you read The Rational Male. And everything after that will just start to make so much sense. You'll have terms and definitions for certain things that you see within females, all right? Next book would be The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, all right? And these are basically structured laws with historical examples as well as like profound quotes that correlate to each of the laws, which basically teach you how to use certain strategies in order to gain power in social interactions with other people. All right, excellent read. It almost teaches you how to be more Machiavellian in your thinking, which brings me to my next book, which is called The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Now, there's a reason why Tupac named himself Machiavelli before his death. I'm not going to spoil that for you. I'll just tell you that there are a lot of parallels between Tupac and Niccolo Machiavelli. Alright? Both very influential. Both had high amounts of celebrity status and fame. And both of them were basically targeted at some point for giving away too much information about how the world works. Tupac was doing it more as a rapper who was exposing some of the evils that are plaguing our planet. Machiavelli was exposing too much about how politics can be manipulated to keep certain people in power and to influence the masses to actually follow a program in order for that, back then it was kings, to maintain power over their territory. So Machiavelli dropped a lot of key knowledge that actually has a lot to do with how modern day politics functions. Propaganda by Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays is considered to be the grandfather of public relations. So whenever you think about like mass media, commercials, advertising, and how certain things have been used in order to gain traction with consumers and to create something that has a lot of value, you have to give credit to Edward Bernays. Like, he was the first one who, for example, created a campaign that motivated women. Back in the day, it was like socially shamed for women to smoke or do anything that men did as far as like drinking or smoking. But he created the first campaign that made it socially acceptable and even sought after for women to begin smoking. So think about the clever mentality that he had in order to make masses of women think it's now cool to do something that before was socially shamed. And the techniques he used in order to achieve success in that led to him actually coming up with a bunch of other things that had a ripple effect and can even be seen to today. Another book. This is specifically for my black audience, all right? Specifically for my young black people out there that want to have a better understanding of where we are and what our issue is as a race of people, specifically in North America, also in Africa, but specifically in North America. Powernomics by Dr. Claud Anderson. He basically talks about how you can achieve power through economics, and that all the other methods that we're using, such as protesting and doing marches and bullshit like that will never achieve the effect of freeing us from the situation we're in. It all has to do with economics, and it has to do with group economics, working together so that we can control industries vertically from top to the bottom. So a good example would be like Vietnamese people. What do they specialize in? They specialize in nail care, right? But they don't just specialize in that and then use all products from outside sources. No, they control everything about it. Whatever they need, production-wise, they control that. They control the factories. They control the shipment of that stuff. They control the distribution. They control the price. And then they also have the skilled labor in order to use all the things that they control from the top all the way to the bottom to the actual service of the client who comes in and pays. So they control that entire industry from top to bottom. And that's what Powernomics is kind of talking about, right? You also have The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Now, The Secret, I read that back when I was in the Army, maybe when I was about 21, 22. This is before I went to airborne school and I was going through medic school in San Antonio, Texas. Shout out to all the veterans out there, especially all my CCA whiskeys, combat medics. During this time, about 2007, I picked up a copy of that book. And it was just a good read because it basically talks about how if you have a dream and you have a big goal in your head, that you need to use positive reinforcement and visualization in order to succeed in reaching that dream. Everything starts in the mind. Everything. The mind is eternal, the body is temporary, right? So you have to understand that whatever you put in your head as a vision, like let's say the latest thing that I achieved was actually getting my motorcycle license, right? So before I even ever had a motorcycle license, I already envisioned myself on a motorcycle. I already envisioned, going and signing up for a course and being successful at whatever they wanted to test me on. I picture myself going through the cones and succeeding at whatever was thrown my way as a prerequisite to getting my license. Look, now I have my license. Or I visualize, moving out of the country and being somebody who's way different and traveling with a passport and having the world open up to me. It all started with that idea and it became a reality through practice action. So The Secret is also a great read. Last two, we got The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I think he's from Brazil. Excellent book. Anybody who has aspirations in our life that they want to achieve, that they feel are far away, and unrealistic, this book will probably put you back in perspective, because it kind of gives a tale of a young, like, poor farmer who has big dreams to accomplish a bunch. And throughout the storyline of the book, you see all the trials, tribulations, and huge challenges that he has to overcome, but he still makes it. So this will make you feel inspired once you finish that book, right? And that's what I want you guys to do, is be inspired and know that whatever you're trying to accomplish in this life is definitely possible, as long as you have a plan, you stick to it, and you believe wholeheartedly within yourself that you can achieve it. And last but not least is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. All right, now I know it's not really, most people aren't really into like military strategy and things like that, but just by reading this book, you will have a better understanding on how most governments have adopted his techniques and training and implemented it even into their special units, such as like 82nd Airborne or Special Forces units or Delta Force or Navy SEALs. Like, all of these guys are going to have an appreciation for the things that Sun Tzu mapped out centuries ago. All of our high generals in the military have studied this man and give him credit to being like one of the most strategic generals to ever have lived, right? So I'm not going to harp on this stuff too long. I'm already at like 16 minutes. But those are 10 books that I think you guys should check out. All right, you got The Count of Monte Cristo, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rational Male, 48 Laws of Power, The Prince, Propaganda, Powernomics, The Secret, The Alchemist, and The Art of War. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely pick up some of these books. You can see it in the description box below. And yeah, take care of yourselves. I'll be back again at you very soon with the next video.